welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now, as always, if you're enjoying watching these videos, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that we can let you know when the next video is coming. Now, in today's video, I'm interviewing the incredible, world-famous Denise Duffield-Thomas. And in this particular interview, which I streamed across Facebook, we do a really big deep dive into money blocks. So one of the things that Denise, or the thing that Denise is well known for, is helping women to bust through those money blocks, those self-sabotaging beliefs that we have and feel around money. She's a best-selling author. She's written multiple books. I've just actually recently finished reading her second book, Chillpreneur. And Denise and I talk about how even as money mindset experts, we have to focus on our money blocks every single day. And actually, I'm a huge believer, if you've been following my work now, that it's really how we feel about money that has the biggest impact on our future wealth and success. So this is an area out of anything that we should be spending the most amount of time on. So in today's episode, we do a really deep dive into some of the common money blocks that women face around money. We also talk about things like role models and how Denise had some particular role models in her life that really influenced and encouraged her development of her relationship around money. And then we also talk about some key tangible actions that you can take away to bust through some of those money blocks. So I hope you enjoy this particular interview.
So I am so excited this morning to be streaming a live podcast interview with the incredible Denise Duffield-Thomas. I was just saying to Denise, actually, I went to bed super early last night thinking, right, I need to be up and fresh to interview somebody who actually played a very important part in my life a few years ago, although she doesn't know it yet. And typically I laid awake till like 2 a.m, not being able to sleep and just reciting like what questions I was going to be asking Denise today. So I'm a little bit nervous actually, but so excited. And so I just wanted to do an introduction, first of all, to those of you who haven't heard of Denise. First of all, where have you been? Second of all, Denise Duffield-Thomas is an Australian money mindset mentor. And Denise really specializes in helping women to break through money blocks and create wealth through her mindset courses and practical wisdom. And I've actually just finished her second book, Chillpreneur, which is a fabulous read for anyone who's looking for a new read to pop on their summer reading list. So a massive welcome to you, Denise. Thank you so much for joining me on today's podcast. How are you doing?
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. It's so nice being live. We're on completely opposite ends of the world. And how amazing is it? With everything that's going on in the world, we can still connect and, you know, have this time together. I'm so grateful for it.
Yes, and Australia holds a really special place in my heart. So my twin brother and my dad live out on the Gold Coast, so Australia's like my second home.
Ah, well, the UK is like my second home, really. My great grandmother was from the UK, and I lived there for 10 years, and I miss it all the time. And hopefully, we'll be able to travel again to each other's countries.
Yeah, let's hope so. You were over here last year, weren't you, for your book launch?
Yes, I was, and I'm supposed to be in Birmingham in October, but I don't think that's going to happen. So hopefully next year, we're looking at February or June, I think, for another trip over.
Amazing. That would be great. Yeah. It would be great to meet you in person. Amazing.
Yeah.
So Denise, tell us a little bit, first of all, then about, so you specialize in helping women to break through these glass ceilings of income, of self-worth, of charging for what they're worth in their business. And you talk a lot about money blocks, like helping women to bust through their money blocks. Could you just give us a little bit of an idea about exactly what money blocks are?
Totally. So, you know, I think business is really simple. You know, I think we're all really smart people. We can take a course and follow it. We all know how to make money. We all know how to get clients, all of those things. But yet there's something that holds us back. And that is often our beliefs and stories about money. And, you know, you can Google anything these days, but why is it that women still undercharge? Why is it that women still are struggling with making money when we have all of these amazing tools at our disposal and all of these opportunities to make money? And often women come to my books and they say, oh, I didn't think I had money blocks until I read your book and realized I actually have them all. And I want to say you're not alone in that. I have a ton of money blocks as well. I have to work through my money stories and beliefs all the time. It's something that will never, ever go away. But when you realize it, then you can stop making up stories about yourself and your ability to earn money. You're just completely normal and you just have money blocks like everyone else.
And what kind of money blocks do you come across when you're working with female entrepreneurs?
Okay, so the biggest one is everyone's individual relationship with how you can earn money. And in particular, that you have to work hard to make money. Now, this is where the real hustle culture comes in especially in America, you know, and if you follow American teachers, or if your business is kind of, you know, being immersed in that American culture, that is a huge thing, right? Get up, hustle, repeat. You know, all of the memes about hustling, basically. But it's not just that American hustle culture. It is this belief that you have to do something really hard to make money. And there's a particular reason that our generation has it more than people who are like being born now. It's because we grew up where you couldn't start a business without a lot of capital, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of physical labor, a lot of physical products. And also our geographic market was usually very, very limited. And so if you knew anyone growing up who was an entrepreneur, they have a very different story than we can have now. But it is that divide for our generation of that analog childhood and the digital adulthood, right? It's like our brains haven't quite caught up with the fact that making money actually can be very, very easy. And that's because not everyone has seen that opportunity, right? So you might have friends or family members who are still in a real job or have a real business, and it actually feels kind of like you're doing something wrong or you're cheating somehow if you're making money doing something that comes easily to you. Also, if you grew up kind of even immersed in the personal development world in the last 20 years, which I have, a lot of it was about learning to overcome your weaknesses. And no one really taught us that instead of wasting any time on our weaknesses, we should actually double down on our strengths. And that's where I see women in particular ignore the easy and obvious paths to making money. They ignore the low-hanging fruit. They ignore businesses that they really should pursue because it feels too easy. It's too obvious. Everyone knows how to do this. Everyone can find out this information for free. Everyone, you know, can do this at home or whatever it is. And so you discount your own genius because you've been taught that no, it's not about doubling down on your strengths. It's about finding those weaknesses and then doing a course or learning, you know, learning somehow to overcome it. And so I see people reinvent the wheel all the time to prove that they're worthy of abundance, make things harder for themselves, go around like their zone of genius. It's like, well, I know I'm really good at this, but I'll try this path and this path and this path first. Or they, you know, reject hiring people. They try and do it all themselves just to kind of prove that they are worthy of making that money. And so honestly, that is the biggest one. Like it's 80% of the stuff that I see all stems from that belief that you have to work really, really hard to make money. And it's a hard one to overcome.
Yeah, you're right. Even things like when we were at school, like we were taught to work harder. And so therefore, depending on what your relationship was like growing up around money, like with your parents' influence and other key people in your life, then you kind of combine those two things together. And then you combine the fact that as women, we're caregivers, aren't we? We are in part of our DNA is to go out and be the caregivers, to provide, you know, and look after our families, and look after other people. And then it feels icky then, doesn't it, to then start asking to receive money and wealth and abundance.
Especially if your job or your business is about holding space for people, or listening, or you know, solving problems for people, because this is what our mothers and grandmothers did for free. They did it on you know, PTA board. I don't know what you call it in the UK, but you know, volunteer boards, and in their communities, and for their kids, and for their kids' friends, and for their family members, and for their husbands who went off to work. And so if you have a job now that's basically about, like, you know, being a light for somebody, or helping them solve their problems, or you know, creating community, that feels like it's not worth charging for or worth getting paid for, and it's invisible labor. And I see this a lot for people who have, communities, for example. So they have membership communities or other communities, and, they start to really spend so much time in managing that community, or, answering questions day and night, because no one has ever taught us that that is a marketable skill that we're allowed to charge for, right? I would love to, you can send me a DM about this, but who got told they talked too much as a kid at school? Me? I'm sure podcasters usually have.
Yeah, like literally the other day I was just saying, I wrote a story on my post actually about my first junior school I went to. I was always the one putting my hand up going, I know the answer, I know the answer. And my mum pulled me out of school because the teacher was like, we don't do competitiveness in this school. Like, we don't allow kids to speak up against other kids. And so she did. She moved me and pulled me out into a different school. But consequently for me, that message was that I shouldn't be heard, which was really had a massive impact on me when I was building my business, because I was so scared about getting visible and getting my services out there as this, fear of being judged and fear of not being good enough and fear of being found out that maybe I was a fake. Or so, yeah, all of these money blocks really stem right back to childhood stuff, right?
They really do. And I find that that's most of the work that I do with people, is unlearning all the things that you were told about your natural self. And so I am a natural leader, but of course, as a kid, I was called bossy. And so it took me so long to hire people in my business because I was afraid that they were going to call me bossy. There's some people listening who would naturally love to kind of speak on stage and, be the center of attention or have their own show or whatever, but they were probably called show-offs as a kid. No one likes a show-off. I heard that a lot as a kid. Or maybe you love to solve people's problems and you were called nosy, or you were like the life of the party, and so your teachers teased you about it because it's like, nope, you're not allowed to sit next to all your friends because all you're going to do is talk, or school's not a party, all of those things. And so it's almost like you've got to find out what you were in trouble for between the ages of like 7 and 13, I reckon, is where your true personality came in. And then it just got knocked out of you, either as a little one, or when you're a teenager and you were told that that's not cool, or, that's when like all the really mean girl stuff starts to happen at school, and you just go, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm bad in some way, and you just suppress it. And then what I find is that kind of when women hit about 29, that's when it starts to bubble up again, and they're like, oh, hang on, who am I? And then you spend all your 30s kind of trying to, bring that back in and giving yourself permission to do it. And I just turned 40 last year, and I'm like, oh my God, this is who I can be for the rest of my life if I want to. So yeah, it's all about unlearning those lessons, and there's universal ones for sure. Like, you have to work really hard to make money, but then you have to find out what your individual lessons were, that your parents or your teachers taught you, and see what's worthy to keep and see what you're just going to let go.
And how does that show up then? So if you have money blocks, what are some of the typical common ways that would show up for somebody in their business?
Yeah. Okay. So we talked about the work hard one. The way that that's going to show up is that you reinvent the wheel all the time, as in that you don't allow yourself to prosper from things because you're just trying something new all the time. Because you have to, demonstrate that you're worthy. It could be that you resist delegating. That's a really big one for that money block. But then let's talk about some other blocks. So one really common block is that I can make money or help people, but never both. They are completely, you have to help people without any agenda. And so that could be showing up in that you're giving away, time or help or product to people because you feel really guilty about charging for it. This shows up a lot in helping industry. So if you're a health coach, for example, you might be thinking, well, good health is everyone's birthright. I'm not allowed to charge for this, or like or you might actually get clients reflecting that back to you and saying, well, if you really cared about people, you would make this free. And so people do. They end up burning themselves out trying to help everyone, regardless of, if you like helping them or or anything like that. And you try and do it in a way that's unsustainable. You know, you're trying to do it with your time or with your energy. And so a really big sign of that is burnout, you know, and I've been there, I'm sure you have as well, where you just crash because you're just trying to help everybody all the time. And it's so unsustainable. And it stems from that belief of I can't charge people by helping them. You know, it has to be one or the other.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute, actually, because I would say I've probably suffered from that money block the most recently in my business, and it's 100% all attached to self-worth. Because I run a community, well, I run several communities, and like you say, when you're giving to those communities, you get all these feel-good feelings from it, but at the same time, you're maybe not charging what you should be charging. And I remember in your book, actually, Denise, you talked about in the early stages of your business that you went off and did like mugs and T-shirts and printed.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that part of your business when you were starting to potentially like self-sabotage, I guess, with looking at all these different things. What did you learn about yourself during that period when you had some money blocks?
Sure. I mean, I still have money blocks, and so I have to work on that, especially the helping one, because now that I have a bit more of a, you know, public kind of face, I suppose, you know, I do get people reaching out to me all the time, asking for advice, asking for collaborations. And it can be really difficult to say no, because it is so ingrained in us to want to help everybody. And I truly, truly want to help everybody. So the whole thing about, you know, when I was making merchandise, where it comes down to is this really horrible combination of undercharging, but still wanting to over deliver. Because it comes from a place of I'm not enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I still want to do it. So every time I have an event or anything, I'm always like, what can I give them? Because I am not enough. It needs to have some razzle dazzle around it. You know, I want to feel like they get their money's worth. And so even when I, you know, host retreats at my rose farm, I had to be, you know, this is at the start of the year, I had to be like, this gift bag is enough. You know, like I don't need to put 50 more things in it. They're going to get their money's worth. So this is where it shows up for people. Say, for example, you're a website designer, you know, and your package clearly states they get 5 pages. But then you're like, oh, but then they need this page and then they need this page. And then they say, hey, can you just make me another page? And you go, okay, I guess it's only going to take me a couple of minutes. I'll whip that up. So that's one example. If you're a coach or a consultant and they've paid for an hour and 3 hours later, you're still trying to solve every problem of their life, that's a problem, right? That is you saying, I am not enough. I have to give and give and give and give and give because it's just not enough. Or like me with, you know, if you have physical events and you're like, they have to have this and this and this, and oh, I'll pay for their lunch and I'll do this and I'll pick them up from the airport. And then you realize that you're not making any money from it. You know, this is just such a classic thing, and you have to watch yourself all the time just to be like, okay, I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. And it's okay for you to have boundaries. It's okay for you to say no. It's okay for you to say, hey, great, you know what? Just to remind you, your package is 5 pages. So no problem if you want the other ones. Why don't you put it on a list and, you know, we'll do it in the next project, or that will be X amount. It's really easy to, you know, not think about it and just say yes. But you can have those mechanisms in place to kind of check yourself so you don't automatically say yes.
Yeah, and boundaries are so important, aren't they? And I know you give a lot of tips in your Chillpreneur book about creating boundaries as an entrepreneur. So, for example, one of the things you talk about is like on your emails, for example, like have someone manage those for you and giving, you know, some responses out, or maybe rather than saying yes or no, just say, you know, not right now could be an alternative response to not feeling quite uncomfortable by going, oh no, I'm really sorry, I can't do that, to just doesn't work for me right now. You know, I have to manage my boundaries and my time and my energy, because time is money, isn't it? And we forget that giving away an hour of our time to deliver, I don't know, the 10th free workshop that you've delivered that week is your time, and we have to have really strong boundaries around our time.
It's your life force, you know, that's the thing too, because it actually sometimes in time, it actually doesn't take a lot of time. You know, sometimes it is something that can come easily to you, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't charge for it, because it's usually taken you, you know, that old kind of thing about, you know, it's taken you 20 years to learn how to do that in 5 minutes. And so you can't discount that. You can't discount your ability to shortcut someone else's success, right? And that's worth charging for, and it's worth paying for on the other side as well. Like, I love when I can go to an expert and they can do things for me quickly. I'm not, you know, thinking, well, it only took you 5 minutes, so you should, you know, you should undercharge for that. And a perfect example is, say if you have an hourly rate and then someone goes, well, it only takes you 15 minutes, so you're just going to charge me 15 minutes. It's like, no. So one boundary could be, no, my minimum is this. My minimum is, you know, this. A good example on this is, I used to have a friend who was like a business consultant, but she would do Facebook ads for people. And then she would do the Facebook ad and then she'd go, oh, but their landing page is shit. I'll just do the landing page for them. And then she'd be like, oh God, their website is so bad. All right, I'll just fix up their website. And then she'd be like, oh, their follow-up emails are terrible. I'll just do that. And then she'd be like, and then your product sucks. So I'll just do that. And then finally she was like, I can't take on clients who don't have those things in place. So either you charge them for it or you raise your minimum standards about who you can actually serve. And I'm very clear on this in my Money Bootcamp, for example. I say, do not join if you have to decide between buying my course or feeding your children, because to be honest, that is pressure that I don't need. Like, I will take your money, I will spend it guilt-free, but don't put that pressure on me to fix your whole life, you know, for the cost of my boot camp. I used to say this when I was a coach as well. I would say, look, the cost of working with me is this, but just to let you know, there's probably going to be other costs, because I'm going to get you to upgrade a ton of things in your life. So don't work with me if this already is a scary stretch for you and like literally you're not going to pay your rent. Again, that's just pressure that I don't need. And you'll find that when you put those boundaries in place, like, you know, you do attract clients who it is a win-win. And it is easier to work with because they're not going to be, I always find too that when you like take your standards down, you go, oh, okay, they're the worst clients. You know, sorry, headphones just fell out. You know, whether you're compromising on your standards or your price or whatever, oh, they're always the worst clients because it's never enough.
Yeah, and I'd certainly say, like with the ladies that I've worked with, they've definitely experienced some of that. And it's like you were saying earlier about, it's understanding who you want to work with, but also understanding who you don't want to work with and creating those boundaries for yourself. And actually, let's talk a little bit, Denise, about the concept of receiving money, because I think this is a really big one. Like I think we all have our own little financial comfort zones, and we're more comfortable perhaps to either receive money or to give money, depending on things that we've experienced. From the work that you do, Denise, how important do you think it is for us to really focus on thinking about stretching that comfort zone as to how comfortable we feel with receiving wealth and giving wealth, I guess, is the other one?
It's honestly a lifelong thing you have to be vigilant over. You really do, because you might master it in one area of your life. Like, so for example, you might have a particular product or service, and then you feel really, really good about receiving money for that because you get to a place where you think, this is win-win. I feel good receiving the money. I feel that the person has got value for their money. But then you might start another product or service and it feels like you're starting from scratch again. And you have to acclimatize again. You have to go through the same work again. And you might be surprised that I go through that all the time. And so it's actually really funny that my comfort zone about receiving is quite high. And so sometimes when there's something that is lower, I actually feel bad about receiving that. And I'll give you a perfect example. So a friend of mine had a conference, and I couldn't speak at her conference because I was supposed to be overseas, and then Corona happened and she put her conference online. And so she was like, look, I'm inviting you back, but it's a nominal speaking fee, and this is what it is. And I was like, yep, cool, fine. And then I felt bad about sending the invoice, and because it's a way lower amount than I would normally charge, and it almost felt like, what's the point? And I almost emailed her and said, just donate it to charity. Like, it's just do that. And I went, no, it's safe for me to receive all forms of income. And so that might surprise you to hear that, but I feel fine about, you know, charging someone $8,000 to come to, you know, to come to a retreat with me. But for some reason, that small amount of money, because it was kind of a bit token, right? But it still, it just brought up so much stuff for me. And so that's why I'm saying it has to be vigilant, because because our brains are sneaky, right? You might be like, I'm totally fine to receive this. But then like your best friend asks if she can buy it and you go, oh no, it's not safe for me to charge my friend. Actually, that's a really good example. I realized I had a money block around charging people from Australia, because when I was growing up, my stepdad used to say, there are no friends in business. And I remember thinking, oh yeah. And then I remember thinking, oh, you have to have mates rates for your mates. And then I realized I was treating the whole continent of Australia like my mates. I was like, I can't charge my mates. And so that was an interesting new little layer to it, right? So thinking about, you know, where you have those sneaky little loopholes that your brain's like, well, it's okay for that, but not that. Oh, it's okay for this because, yeah, it takes me a bit of work, but that's too easy, so I'm not allowed to charge for that. Or that's an okay amount, but that's unseemly. Or that's an okay amount, but that's not worth bothering about. It's really interesting how our money blocks always try and find a little way in. And that's why I'm saying you have to be vigilant. And when I say vigilant, it's not like onerous work, but just be curious about how your money blocks are showing up. And I mean, that was literally last week that I was like, oh, I can't send that invoice. And I'm a multi-millionaire, you know? So don't beat yourself up because it's sneaky and you have to be vigilant.
I love that. And also because I guess it changes over time, right? Because when you're starting your business, it may be uncomfortable for you to receive your first like $100 or £100. And then in 2 years after that, maybe you've increased your prices to say 2,000, and then that feels comfortable. So you're constantly kind of stretching that. I mean, often people talk about the glass ceiling, don't they? What's your glass ceiling of income? Where do you feel that you need to push through that next level? Almost like an elevator or a lift. How do we push through that next level? And one of the things that you talk about, Denise, is using like these money mantras. Like, you know, I serve, I deserve is one that I love. I've heard you use a number of occasions, and I had it actually as a screensaver. In fact, I still have it as a screensaver on my phone. I serve, I deserve.
I love it. That's beautiful.
But I actually changed one of my other money mantras recently. So I do this all the time. Every single week I have a money date with myself, and I look at my money mantras and I think, right, what's going to serve me this week? And one of the ones I'm using this week is also come from your book, and it was actually a quote, and I forget who it was from. You quoted it in your book, and I'm just going to hold it up to the screen, like for those of you that are listening to this on Facebook. Today. But yeah, success has nothing to do with perfectionism, because for me, that is my biggest money block, is because I want everything to be perfect. So I'll spend hours like editing videos, scripting content, all of those things. So can we talk a little bit about how powerful money mantras can be to help bust through some of our money blocks?
Well, because, you know, we're unlearning patterns of speech and thought. And you've got to think, however old you are, that's how long those things have been in you, right? That's how long it's grooved, you know, that pattern into your brain. And so one of the things we can do to unlearn those patterns and to interrupt the pattern is using affirmations as a replacement thought, you know, and what you speak aloud is very powerful, you know, and you can write your affirmations down, you can speak them out aloud. But what I actually love to do is what you've done on your phone. I love to have them around me, so I'm surprised by them. You know, and I often love affirmation jewelry. I've had, you know, necklaces with quotes on them before. I've had rings that are meaningful to me. Anything that I can do to create an anchor. And this is what we talk about a lot in my money bootcamp, is how do you use your day to create as many of these little anchors as possible, because the default is usually negative. And it takes a little while to unlearn that, you know, and we all, I mean, I don't meditate every day. I, you know, how many of us have got the time to sit and meditate for 8 hours a day to try and unlearn this stuff? So you have to try and do as many things as possible in however way you learn, by the way. So for some people, scents are very powerful for them. So when I was manifesting our beach house, which we live in now, I had a candle, which is up there in my office, but that smelled like the beach. And so I would sit it on my desk and I would smell it and go, ah, yes, I'm going to live in a beach mansion overlooking the ocean. And I'd put it down, but I would have a million of those things in my day to remind me, but to also crowd out the negativity that is our default behavior. And that's what it is. It's crowding it out, not trying to, like, I'm rich, because your body's like, you're not, and who's got the time to do it like that?
All in experience, the sense, what we're hearing, what we're saying, it's the all in experience then, what you're saying.
Absolutely. So like, what do you listen to on your commute? What are you listening to when you get in your car? What's your default? Like, what does your stream look like in your social media? And you can go and do that. You can go and look on Instagram or Twitter, and you can follow accounts that will reflect the reality that you want to see in your own life. And this is really important. I love these conversations we're having at the moment around diversity in business, because if you are a woman or a person who has never seen anyone like you be wealthy or be successful in your field, you just feel like somehow maybe it's not possible for me. So you can go and follow hashtags that will show you that. And it also means that you have a responsibility to also showcase your success, because someone else might be watching and going, wow, she's got an accent. Oh, wow, she's my body type. Wow, she's my skin color. She's my background. She has my circumstances. And then they'll believe that's possible for themselves too. But you can reverse engineer a lot of that stuff, so you start to believe that it's possible for yourself. Like, for example, so one of my goals is to make $10 million a year. And that's my computer password. And it might take a while for me to do that, but it's been my computer password for pretty much most of this year. And it's easy 10 million. And there's a few other bits in there, so don't worry, you can't hack me. But but I type that in multiple times a day, and it's when you go from one income plateau to the next income level, it does take that. It takes repetition to open up your mind about what's possible. And you have to do a ton of work as well. You have to really look at, what do you think is holding you back from going from here to here? And there's a million different reasons that you have to really explore into. There's a ton of different layers to it. But none of those things is there's something wrong with you. None of those things is that you're not good enough. It's all your stories and beliefs about what that income would mean, or who you have to be to earn that income.
And when you talk about like the role models, having role models in our society for wealthy women, who were your role models when you were growing your business?
Well, my role model always from being a teenager was Oprah. Yeah. And so I would watch her after school. When she came to Sydney, I bought a VIP ticket so I could meet her and have a photo with her. And I love that she uses her wealth for good. Like, that really inspires me. And then now I love Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx. And one of the things I love about her, because she's got young kids like I do, and there's not a lot of role models often for people who are in the thick of child rearing. There's all these people who are like, what's your morning routine, babe? Like, I get up and I do yoga, and I'm like, I don't do that. But one of the things I love her doing is every year for her birthday, she takes like 20 of her girlfriends away for a group vacation. And that, for me, I'm like, oh, that feels so wealthy. And just saying, she seems really down to earth and stuff like that. And so if your view is, oh, only rich people, well, they have to be really fancy or whatever, well, then it's your responsibility to go and find people who have the qualities that you naturally have, or that you would aspire to have, whether it's generosity or being down to earth or being humble, or, being environmentally friendly or being innovative, or, being chill, or having a happy marriage and being wealthy. You've got to find those role models. And the other thing too is that you can't put any of them on a pedestal because they're just normal people like you. But it does train your brain to go, well, she can do it. Maybe I can do it.
Yeah, I love that. And we do need more, I think, wealthier women as role models, because one of the things I find, and particularly when it comes to the investing piece, is that we forget that we can invest ethically. And actually the amazing power in when women do take back their power with wealth, we can create such amazing things for the world and for the planet. And that always, I think, helps when you're sitting there thinking really, maybe you're feeling uncomfortable about receiving wealth. So what good could you do with that wealth? Because, you know, like you say, if we hear these messages that money's hard to come by, money doesn't grow on trees, or you have to work hard for money, then that can make us feel bad then when we do receive it, about not doing good with it. And I think looking at role models like Brené Brown, Oprah Winfrey, yourself, you know, people that do good with wealth, that really, you know, encourages us, because we forget that it wasn't until the 1960s that we could even open our own bank accounts in this country. So generationally, we've got a lot of baggage to get rid of as well.
Well, we really do. And that can bring up some guilt for us. You know, again, you might think, oh, of course I want to make money, but then you might not have even seen your own mother have her own money. And so it's going to bring up conflicting feelings for you as a woman to maybe out-earn your partner, out-earn your dad, out-earn your uncle, like your brother. There's going to be some conflicting feelings, and that's really normal because most of us have never had any real life role models around women and money. So we are the role models for the next generation, which is very exciting. But you have to acknowledge the fact that we don't know how to do it.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much, Denise. And are there any like final pearls of wisdom or little tips that you'd like to share with podcast listeners today about how they can bust through some of those money blocks that they may be feeling right now? And by the way, like someone's just commented on Facebook as we're recording this that they love how our plants are matching. Can you see this?
Totally. I love it. So we planned it. I love it. Yeah. And I love your backdrop. I think it's beautiful. Yes. Okay. So first of all, go read my my money book, which is called Get Rich Lucky Bitch. That really talks a lot about money blocks. And if you want to take that further, we have a beautiful community called Money Bootcamp, which is all on my website at denisedt.com. But here is what I want to say. I see so many women waiting to be chosen, for the stars to align, for their, 10-pound weight loss, until they feel ready, until they feel confident, until they're not tired anymore, or until something outside of us happens. And you have to decide that today is your lucky day. Like today can be your lucky day. Not 20 years from now, not 10 years from now, not when someone else chooses you. You have to choose yourself and decide that today is your lucky day. And you can write that down on a post-it, put today is my lucky day. Because every time you get up and you sit at your computer and you think, oh, nobody wants to hear from me, or it's Mercury retrograde, I'm not going to launch. No excuses. Nobody is waiting for it. The world will go on if you don't release your book. The world will go on if you never launch your course. It really will. So you have to decide and choose yourself.
Amazing. Your time is now, as you say, Denise. It's your time. Yeah. You deserve wealth. Amazing. Thank you so much, Denise, for spending your evening in Australia. I know it's morning for us over here, but thank you so much for spending your time.
Dinner. Thanks, guys.
And if anyone wants to connect with Denise, we'll pop all the links into the show notes. But as Denise said, head over to her website or have a look at the Money Bootcamp. And I mean, I'm following Denise on Instagram. I think that's probably where, is that where you hang out the most?
Yeah, I love hanging out on Instagram. So I'm really easy to find there. It's at Denise DT. I love when people send me a DM and tell me like what they've gotten out of the podcast, like as in something actionable, because as a Virgo, I love being of service. And so that really makes me excited. More than people saying, oh, it's inspiring. It's like, here's what I did. Here's my aha that I'm going to change from now on. It's like,
yeah,
yes.
Wonderful. And if anyone wants to share in my communities as well, any actions, then we can send those over to Denise and her team as well. So
I would love that.
Amazing.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much, Denise. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
So as always, I really hope that you enjoyed that particular episode. I'd love to hear your thoughts on your key takeaways from the interview. So please just let me know in the comments below. What did you learn about your money blocks? Did you perhaps relate to some of those that we talked about on the interview? And if you've really enjoyed watching this video, I'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to email us at hello@themoneypanel.co.uk. And if you're really wanting to focus on your money blocks and beliefs around money, please also feel free to come and join our waiting list to come into the Money Circle. This is an area that we talk about every single day in the Money Circle community. And you can join the waiting list over at katherinemorgan.com/join now. See you soon. Remember, small steps, big wins. See you soon.